Hey, how's it going guys? Dazzle here and welcome back to another episode of the Arms With PvP Guide series. So last episode we talked about Azerite, traits, stat priority and PvP scaling, and today's episode we'll be talking about macros, which will be mainly used in arenas. Now I do want to correct what I said in my last video about trait stacking. So after playing around with it and doing some research, I see many people stacking Crushing Assault, which your melee abilities have a chance to increase the damage of your next slam and reduce its rage cost by 20. Now it was 0 before, but it was recently nerfed I believe, but it's still really good. So today I'll be going through my macro setup. Now I actually reset my entire key bindings for this video. I was looking for some old screenshots of my old setup, but I couldn't find any of it, so I just went with what I remembered. Okay, so if you guys don't use macros, it is not necessary, but if you want to reduce a couple seconds of clicking and target switching, which could potentially help you land a kill, then you definitely want to use macros. So how I set up my macros is that I use focus macros. Now a lot of people use arena 1, 2, 3 macros, which is a bit more complicated than focus macros. Instead of making a macro for your focus target, you have it set up for all the arena targets ranging from 1, 2 and 3. But I have personally never used any arena 1, 2, 3 macros, and from what I have seen, it's probably a better choice than focus macros. But I guess it's just whatever floats with your playstyle. So for me, I really like focus target macros, and I'm so used to it after all these years of using it. So this is what I'll be talking about in this video. Now if you're here looking for target arena 1, 2, 3 macros, I'm sorry, I don't use them. Okay, so anyways, I hope you guys enjoy the video. Alright guys, so the first step you want to do is to make your focused target macro. So basically what I will show you here is I have a mouse over focused target macro, which allows me to hover over a target, and when I use it, it will have them set as focus. So even if I do have another target set as focus, so for example I would have the Raiders training dummy set as target, I can go over here to this regular training dummy and use the macro, and it will still have them targeted as a focus target. And to clear this, all you have to do is remove your current target and just don't hover on any enemies and use the macro, and you can clear the focus. Now it is a bit annoying since you do have to remove your currently targeted enemy, but you don't really need to remove your focus target that often, and instead of removing them, you'll be switching them if you do use it again. So it really isn't necessary to click to remove it. But if you do, all you gotta do is just stop targeting people and just use it again without hovering over any targets. Now the reason why this is not exactly necessary is that if you want to set a focus on someone, you can just click on them and over here and just set focus. Now that takes really long, but if you have an add-on like S-Arena or Gladius, I believe, you can just click on that and it will have them set as focus. But I feel like that takes too long as well, so that's why I set up a macro which allows me to target anyone that I hover over and have them set as a focus target. So moving on from that, after you have that set up, it will open up a bunch of macros for you. So if you look down here, I have 3 macros for charge, 3 for pummel, 2 for storm bolt, and 2 for each of my DPS abilities apart from Warbreaker, because there really isn't a macro that you can set for this. But if you don't use Warbreaker and you use Colossus Smash, then you can still set up macros for that, but I mainly use Warbreaker, so I don't really need a macro for that. Now before we get into these macros, there's one really important thing you want to keep in mind about your macros, is that for your really important abilities like charge and pummel and storm bolt or fear, it's really important to have a cancel or a blaze storm line in your script. So what that does is that it cancels your blaze storm effect. So for example, if your healer is being killed by someone and you're in a blaze storm effect, if you don't have that macro, you cannot get rid of it unless you go all the way up here and click on blaze storm to remove it, which takes way too long and your healer will be dead. So what you want to do is, for example, if I'm blaze storming right now and if I use charge, I can cancel that blaze storm effect. So not only is that able to help save your teammates, but you can also use that to land a kill, which could help you win the game. So the first thing I want to show you guys is my charge macros, which the first one I will have on the screen right now, the script. So what this does is that this is just a normal charge macro, but I do have cancel aura set into it, so I can cancel the Blaze Storm effect and charge. Now this is just a normal charge, but the next one over here is a mouse over charge. So what this does is that when I hover over someone, just like the focus target macro that I made, is that when I hover over them and I use the macro, I can charge at them without having them set as a target. Now I do not use this macro all the time though, because it's not really necessary, and when I do need to charge at my focus target, I'll just use my focus target macro, which I will set the Raiders training dummy as a focus target, and I do not have any other enemy selected. But if, for example, I'll have this regular training dummy selected, and I'll use this macro and it will bring me to my Raiders training dummy, which I have set as a focus target. Now this is very important in PvP, is because it takes too long for you to change your targets to the person that's really far away and charge at them. That takes way too long, and with this macro all you gotta do is just click one button and you'll be at them instantly, closing the gap between them, which also helps you for example kicking their spells, which I have set up over here. So the first one I want to show you is just a pummel macro, which it's the same as the charge one, which contains the cancel aura effect, and then the one next to it is a focus charge pummel, which allows me to charge at my target and use pummel as well, which also saves a lot of time when you use this macro, because instead of just using two separate spells, you combine them into one spell and just 2 clicks and you'll be kicking their spells. So after this one we have a focus pummel macro, which it's pretty simple. So for example, if I have this training dummy set as my kill target and this training over here set as my focus target. So for example, if I hear killing this person and I see the training dummy that I have set as a focus target is casting, for example, polymorph, I can go over here and just use that macro and it will kick the polymorph, which is very important, instead of switching your target over here and then using the spell, which takes too long. So moving on from the pummel macros, we have our 2 Stormbolt macros. Now this is pretty simple. This one over here is just a focus Stormbolt, so when I use it, it will hit my focus target. And the other one is just a normal Stormbolt that has cancel aura in it, so if I want to stun someone really quickly, I can just use that and it'll cancel my Blaze Storm if I'm in a Blaze Storm effect. And the same goes for this one as well. So for hamstring, if I am here killing my kill target and I see that my focus target is getting on my healer, and if I want to peel my healer or just like help him a little bit, I can come over here and apply the hamstring effects on my focus target, and I can still use it again on my kill target. So that way they both have the hamstring effect on them, and it's really simple. All you gotta do is click like 2 buttons instead of switching your target and just wasting your time. Okay, so now I'm gonna show you guys the rest of the macros. So I do have a focus disarm macro as well, which is the same concept as our focus Stormbolt macro, focus pummel, and focus charge. So now I will show you guys my focus DPS rotation. Now I know I do say a lot of focus here, but this is just my setup that I once used. This isn't really necessary though, but I do find it pretty fun to use. So for example, if I have my kill target selected right now, I can charge my kill target, but I can use Mortal Strike on him first, and I can do some DPS and just apply more pressure to my focus target, and I can also spread my Mortal Strike effect to my focus target, which pretty much just applying more pressure and just increasing that damage output by applying that debuff on him, which will create more pressure to the healer, and the healer will just panic because they don't really know who you're hitting, and they will eventually spread out. When my sweeping strikes is on cooldown, so don't worry guys, I do know that sweeping strikes can hit multiple targets. Alright, so for our final macro, we have Focus Fear, or Focus Intimidating Shout. So it's pretty much the same concept again. You can just use your Focus Fear. Now, your Focus Fear is a AoE thing, but it's still really important to have that person focused. So you want to make sure that the fear actually goes on that guy instead of someone else. Alright, I forgot that I do have one more macro, and that is the Burst macro. So I pretty much just have my avatar and my Sharpened Blade in the macro. So it does save more time. Instead of using 2 abilities, you can have just 1 click and you can use them all. Alright guys, so that's it for this video. If I said anything wrong or made a mistake, please let me know in the description below so we don't spread the wrong information. In our next video, I'll be going through keybindings and movements where I explain how to apply these macros on your keybinds. But until then, peace out.